Organissima, New York. Your exotic skin, hair, and beauty source, and your one-stop shop for all your natural and organic skin and hair care, featuring authentic organic Moroccan oil and prickly pear seed oil and much more. Bringing you only the best, straight from the source and proudly produced in the USA. So what are you waiting for? Shop today at www.organissima.com. Organissima, New York. Your beauty is our duty.
Folks, welcome to the iHealth channel, the Fitness Fab channel, iHealth Radio, the usual, with your host, Hurricane H. New day, show, new topic, new guest, and a different angle. And I like this angle today. You guys, it's not something we talk about all the time because it's got to do with children, it's got to do with illustration and, different things. So different angle. But with me, my guest, she is a coach, she's a trainer, she's a yogi, she is an illustrator, she is an author, she's a lot of things. And we're going to talk about all those things and how they all fit and now how they all kind of tie into the discussion of today. And it's really, she has a new book. And so we're going to talk about the book and the reason behind the book, the story behind it, and what's that book's main message and how it's going to help people. So without any further ado, I have with me Sarah Finniss. Sarah, welcome to the show.
Oh, thank you so much, Hurricane H, for having me. I'm grateful to be here. My pleasure.
My pleasure. So let's talk about you, Sarah, your journey. First of all, like your background in terms of where it started and how I know you had, early childhood, education kind of background. So we can talk about that part because I think that may have been the motivator behind the book. And again, you're going to tell us all that. But also I want to learn about your yoga, your personal, the training piece of it and all the stuff. So we're going to touch on the fitness, the health, the book, the whole nine.
Yes, absolutely. I have a background in early childhood education. So I was working with kids as young as 2 years old. And as I grew up, I moved up in the age groups that I was working with and really focused on the art aspect of the teaching. So getting them creative. And a big theme for my early childhood education was the Reggio philosophy. So allowing them to see materials and just being inspired by them to want to create is kind of the grounding that I started, the foundation of it. And from there, I ended up in the fitness field. So a big jump, but my book is kind of marrying my teaching art teacher with my yoga and fitness chapter.
So, thank you, Sarah. So let's break down the early childhood just for people who may not know. I mean, this show, broadcasts all over the world. So some people may not be familiar with the concept of early childhood and the way we have it in the States, for example, and different programs and what it entails. If you can just give us some of that and the type of things that are being taught to the children at that age. So if you can give us a little bit more, just a deep dive on that, just to shed a light on that, if you don't mind.
Yeah, absolutely. So early childhood can be anywhere from 2 years old to about pre-K, kindergarten, sometimes up to second grade area, depending on who's looking at it. So very formative years for kids and just exploring all different kinds of things from underwater creatures and, space, just very lightly. The Reggio philosophy is based on inspiring kids by providing materials for them to choose from. So they are able to kind of move around freely and teachers and educators can see what they're naturally drawn to and take note of that. Their art is presented more freely rather than everyone is creating the exact same craft or focused image.
So it isn't like almost a foundation block of the early days of any one of us, in terms of education. But it's a more creative aspect of it where you allow the children to be free to really discover who they were and not be guided to a certain way or like have the same pattern across the board when everybody's doing the same. This is more like everybody can be who they are.
Yes, exactly.
No, so it's funny because as I ask the question, people may think like, well, we understand early childhood, but do we really understand it? And that's the thing. I mean, some people may not have kids, some people may just be getting kids, and again, there's different levels. I'm assuming also in terms of the kids, and the abilities that they have, and so on and so forth. Are they, because I'm not sure if that was also part of the curriculum. Were you able to, work with different levels of children's capacities and maybe like autism and other type of situations, that the children may have?
Oh, yes. Everyone was welcome in the space and included, and respect for everyone as an individual. So getting to learn each student for who they are, their favorite color, their family, their family pictures and what their family look like, and putting that on display around the room to create more of a cozy feel for the classroom.
All right. Well, but I do have a question now. When you hear early childhood, do you think that it's a formal, education process, that everybody goes through? Is that the reality of things? I mean, is that a special program that you have to sign up for? Or anybody can actually get registered for this program, regardless of, I guess financials, or because I'm assuming this is not this is private. This is not, school business. I mean, this is not like public, if you want to call it that way.
Right. There are public areas of early childhood education. I worked in a private school, so they had a specific private education or private early childhood education department. So those would definitely be run a little bit more differently depending on what the philosophy was.
So I'm going to ask a question just out of limb here, because there's always that, the question like, well, private versus public. Usually people tend to believe private is better. Is that even a reality of things? Is that true? I mean, just from an educator.
It's hard for me to answer that just because I only taught in private schools. So
no, that's perfectly fine. And again, it's just because, someone literally just having kids or planning to have their kids register somewhere, they might have options and they might have to think about, well, which one is which. Again, the consensus, or at least the idea that we hear all the time, is that you put your kids in private school, it's always going to be a better outcome, different curriculum, and the attention that they get a little bit more. We hear horror stories about maybe some of the public systems, not all of them. Some of them are just as good, but depends what state and depends what city and what community things have, shifted. So again, it was just a question in general, because I know people probably like, well, I'd like to know more. Now, obviously, your answer is clear. You were in the private sector. You're not able to actually compare or give any advice otherwise. And that's just fine too. So thank you for being just as candid. Listen, you're right. That's it. That's what you know. But if someone wants to get in, it's certainly a program that can help people have a better, I guess, foundation and get a good kickstart, or head start, if you want to call it, in terms of the next education system and whatever they go into public or if they continue private, doesn't matter, same thing. But they'll have a little bit more of abilities, if I'm not mistaken.
Yes, and exposed to more material, and then just getting that social aspect and practice in early. So, greeting their peers, that kind of thing, sitting in a circle together and, taking turns sharing, depending on if they have siblings or not.
Cool. So Sarah, you said something that was interesting. You went from education to fitness. What was that? What was the trigger? What was the momentum? Like, you're here, and all of a sudden, like, I'm not doing this, I'm going here, and then all of a sudden now you're integrating both, which is actually awesome, because many people do that. They shift things, and then somehow it kind of almost backfires, and then everything gets back connected at a certain point of their life. But there's something that triggered this transition into the fitness. Now, obviously, listen, fitness is part of what we're supposed to be doing. It's part of our wellness and so on and so forth. And you do different things there. But you're an educator, and then now you're into a different. Well, technically, you're training. You are educating
Yes.
in the fitness world, if you want to look at it that way. So, but what was your main reason or moment, that changed your life in terms of making that decision?
Yeah, yoga was something that I did as a hobby and a relaxation tool from work. And I had a chance to travel and get certified with in yoga as a yoga instructor. So, sometimes, and when I got the certification, I didn't see it going very far. And I think not putting a limit on where things can go is definitely important, because I didn't see myself going very far, doing much with it. And it really has just blossomed more than I anticipated.
Well, that's an awesome thing, because first of all, it's funny because you were doing this as a means of relaxation, or just, to get away with things and just get you nice and, in the right place, in the zone, right? But then it just evolved, like, how, this is cool. I can certify in this, and, and now, but you didn't give it a thought that it's going to be it, at the beginning, it seems that it was like, okay, I just got certification, that's it. But somehow you just found yourself into it, and you got more and more involved with it, and went through it, and got more certifications, and you coaching and training people.
Yes.
So what was that time frame?
About 2 or 3 years. So I started applying it in the school that I was teaching first with the kids, and then ended up teaching at a gym, and just continued on from there. I think that whole mentality of just starting with something small and not putting so much pressure into it is my approach with the children's book as well. So, fitness doesn't have to be intense. You can approach it from a fun angle and just start to warm up to the idea, or find movements or activities that you just genuinely enjoy, rather than seeing it as this, like, I have to push really hard, and that's not necessarily for everyone. But moving around and finding out, okay, this stretch, I really feels good for me. I need this stretch, or, finding what resonates with you and what feels good for you.
Well, so I love that. I mean, you started with doing it at the school, and almost kind of like, doing two things that you love at the same time, and then you evolved it. But I like the angle of something slower, and you don't go crazy. And to your point, yoga is a type of fitness, and it does give you a lot of things, but it's not as intense as maybe some other type of modalities and formats. So it's for some people that may just want to get into that lighter spectrum. That doesn't mean that you're not going to get stronger and stuff. But there's a lot of merits to yoga, and people use it, in a lot of different aspects of life, and even fitness models. But you use that, and then you use that concept, and you mentioned the book, and we're going to talk about it shortly. Now, is that the only fitness programming that you do, or you've certified in other things?
Personal trainer, and I teach fitness introduction, fitness 101 classes. And so just getting people started on their fitness journey, and finding exercises or stretches that they like. And even with yoga, there are people that are very heavy. There's all different kinds of yoga, and you can go really hard. But if you're brand new to it, just something to kind of get your toe in the water.
Well, yeah, I mean, listen, like everything else, right? You got to get started, and you got to test the waters and get, comfy with things before you get into the deep dive. But that's usually for everyone. I mean, I have not actually tried yoga personally, and I know that if I were to start it, it would be like small steps, because I don't know if I can just go in and jump in and be doing all the stuff that I see some people do, some amazing things, right? And I don't know if I'm going to be able to do that like day one, but I'm certainly, sure that with the work and slowly in few, I guess, weeks and months, you'll get to a certain point where you're like, hey, this is me. I like this. And it works, right? But that's great for everything. And, and I think that concept is an important piece to share with people, because like every small steps, but great achievements in time. Because you go big bang, right off, you might not like things, you might just hurt yourself, you might not just be, you don't feel it right away, and then that's it. And, you turn your mind like, this is not for me. Maybe sometimes people make that mistake, and we do that mistake sometimes. Like you go all in, but then you realize like, this is not it. But maybe if we took a different approach and took the steps to appreciate something, you'll enjoy more. I mean, it's like, it's a bad analogy, but if you go to a buffet and you just like get all that heavy stuff, right away, and that's it, you're done. You can't, but if you go in and get some appetizer and take your time and enjoy everything that's there, you'll enjoy more time, and you probably get through the whole menu, selection. But if you did it wrong, it's not going to work for you. And I mean, it's almost the opposite of the discussion today about fitness, talking about buffet, but that can be anything, right? Even running, right? I mean, if you're running, let's keep it with the fitness, you sprint, that's it. You got 100 meters, whatever, and you're dead. It's over. But if you start slowly, you jog, and you can pace yourself, you can do a lot more. And that's really what happens. A lot of people can do marathons, and maybe they can't do a sprint. I don't know. But the idea is, we know that not the best sprinters in the world are not really the ones that are running the 1500s and the 3000, 5000 and all these other, type of athletic, competitions. So it's all that, but slowly but surely, I think that's a good expression that everybody, is comfortable with, and it works. At least for me, I agree to that concept. You don't go. Now, I do believe in like go big or not, but that's on ideas. Like you're gonna do something, do it right.
Oh yeah.
But that doesn't mean you just gonna go overnight become this success or whatever it is. You're gonna start small steps. You gotta crawl, walk, then run. That's how that's how it works. At least that's the way the nature has intended to be, right? So Sarah. You did this, so you've been spending your time teaching people. And by the way, I love the idea of the one-on-one and helping people get accustomed to the fitness world. Because again, some people may, for people that've been in fitness or in some sort of a gym format all their life, it's natural, right? It's part of life. But some people don't have that, and then they just realize at a certain point in their life they're not in the best shape. They can't breathe well, they're heavy, the weight is overwhelming, a lot of things can happen. Their health is not where it needs to be. The doctors sometimes say, it's time for you to hit a gym, it's time for you to get a personal trainer, it's time for you to do this. That's when they start. And so it is abrupt for someone who has not been conditioned to this from day one. Now, you deal with those people and you are helping them. If you don't mind sharing with people, if they're listening right now, watching, if you're in that situation, what would be a good advice to give them? Because it is hard, to start any regimen of anything in general, all of a sudden. So what's your best advice on that one?
Knowing their why, figuring out why now do they want to start, and also knowing that it's not going to be a perfect journey, and there's room to kind of get off track and just be willing to get back on, and that comes back to why you're doing it in the first place. So if it's something that you truly want to do, then it makes getting back on the track a lot easier.
Oh, listen, I mean, again, people, they do decide. I mean, we hear this all the time. New Year's resolution. Everybody wants to get into that, right? And then a month, 2 months later, people give up. It is a hard journey, and you have to have some commitment. And to your point, it's like, what was the reason you're in this in the first place? And if it's gonna be, something that's gonna be life changing for you and health wise, you're gonna get better. I mean, that's like a good outcome, and you need to get there. So I think that's very sound advice for people, and then it has to also to come from them. I'm assuming that if they're not participating the right way, your results are not going to mean anything, right? No matter what you do, it's got to take some investment.
Yes, exactly. Planting your seeds.
Oh, that's like everything else, right? I mean, we sometimes some of these concepts are almost like applicable to all other walks of lives that, life things that we do, whether it's business, family, relationships, this, that, they all apply the same way. If you have something that you want, you gotta know that you have to. It's gonna take some time. You gotta build to it, and you have to be committed to it. That's it.
Yes.
With none of that, probably things are not gonna work out, and then you'll be like, oh, this is, I don't know what happened. You got to look here. You weren't there, right? So, all right. Now you do all this work, and that's actually your core work, if I'm not mistaken, to date. That's what you do.
Yes.
But then you decided to write a book that is for children's, purposes, right?
Yes.
So. Well, by the way, before I go there, the fitness that you do and all this stuff is I'm assuming adults, or there's also children in the mix.
Adults mostly, and then sometimes starting some kid workshops every once in a while.
Okay, good. So you still do your thing, right, with the children and the
Yes.
education. That's part of you. It's amazing. Like some of the stuff is in your DNA. You can't get rid of it. It's part
It
of
really
who you are.
is.
And the first opportunity you're going to get to give back or to do something with children, you're always going to do that. Now, I don't know if you have your own kids, but I think that do you have kids?
I do not.
Okay. So I guess you have a lot of kids. You deal with a lot of kids. You've been dealing with a lot of kids. So now your idea for the book. And first of all, what's the name of the book? And then what is the main idea of the book?
It's called Iris's Magical Yoga Adventure. So Iris and her mom, Iris's mom teaches her about different landmarks around the world through movement. And so just teaching kids about different topics through using their body and aligning that with their breath. So adding that creativity, I would hope maybe it would inspire kids to, create their own movements to information they're learning, or just be creative in how they move around, move in new ways. It has some fun creative art activities in the back for them to help enforce the learning.
So Sarah, the you using keywords, creativity, art, movement, and and these are like powerful, discussion topics. I mean, movement alone is important, right? I mean, and you're in the world of movement. I mean, yoga is about movement, and fitness is about movement. By the way, in the last month or so, I've had so many shows, and the word movement has been probably present in almost every one of them. And it's amazing because when you're doing your thing, you don't think the word movement. You think workout, you think exercise, you think other things. But the key word is movement. Your body, your muscles, your joints, everything has to be moving, and that's what it is. And it doesn't have to be intense. It could be light, and that's the part. But what you're doing is like, I love the idea of like, there's landmarks around the world, and it's a childish, ideology, like it's for kids, and so their memory or the imagination is vivid, and you are getting them to learn something with the concept. And it's amazing because that creates also some of their mind to actually work. I think because we all, like, if you read a book, we all visualize things, and
Yes.
and that's powerful. Now, is this an illustrated book, or this is just so it is an illustrated?
Yes, it's an illustrated.
All right.
I did the illustrations myself.
Yourself?
Yes.
Nice. All right.
And the story invites at the end kids to create their own character to submit in for a new book. So hopefully it will inspire them to want to write and illustrate as well.
Wow. So you basically, your purpose is to encourage children, creativity, and get them to really find themselves into it, and to your point, and maybe even create a character and create a whole story about that character, and similar, mimic the actual. I mean, obviously, use the yoga as a base with travel, which basically gives I mean, you have to give a context, right? Of what this is, and you did that, but the ideology is amazing, because if I'm reading the book, and I'm not a child, but listen, I actually still like comics and children's stuff, so I'm a big fan of those, especially illustrated stuff. I grew up with those things. I mean, that was actually my strength when I was a kid. I read a lot of if you had a comics or it had an illustration or any children book I used to read, there was like, I'm just any story, I would be like all over it. See, before that, we didn't have games.
Right.
You didn't have stuff like that. TV was limited. So all you did is like you have the books. I mean, you read you're in a book. You're in the park, you got a book. And obviously, I didn't read the big books, at the time, as a kid. But with illustration, with visual, it's like you're watching. It's a cartoon. You go into it
Yeah.
and you enjoy it, and you want. And some of these are series, and you want the next one and the next one. And believe it or not, I found as I grew up, that back stuff that I had when I was a kid helped me a great deal in my education, in my, now I grew up in a French, system. So my French, for example, was, I would say, impeccable to a degree. And because, and it was good, because I had a lot of reading that was built in, and the vocabulary and all the stuff. And so also your imagination was different, if you're reading and you're like open to all these things. And it has an impact no matter how you do it. At least that's my experience. Now, maybe different for other people, but I know, at least from other people that I know who actually had the same or similar, childhood with books and stuff, and they're just different how they operate today, in their, adulthood. So it's amazing that these things are important, or building blocks, I would say, for our children. Now, my kids, they started with those books, but then all of a sudden, we had all this technology, and now we have all this digital stuff, and then it changes a little bit dynamics, but nothing beats an actual good book, right? That's just still reality.
It is. I agree.
Picking a book, reading it, even for your eyes, is pretty good. I mean, it doesn't hurt you the same way as if you have one of those devices, because you can read a book now, watch it or whatever, but it's not the same. But so you use art, use creativity, use different concepts, and in the purpose, you want the children to really just extract what they have and really build creativity stuff in their mind, and get it out of there. Because I think everybody has creativity in them. The question is it somewhere deep buried, or is it out? Sometimes it needs a little trigger, some things to actually kind of get it going. And something like this, especially, it's a book that's teaching them and almost encouraging them to do it. It is encouraging, if I'm not mistaken. That's really the purpose. At the end of the book, you said they're supposed to do that.
Yes. It is encouraging. And then with a friend or a parent or a guardian, creating a bond through that as well. So making it a meaningful experience. So the parent or whoever's doing it with them, they're building connection and building that relationship, whatever that is.
What age group is the book?
Probably around 2nd, 3rd grade, 4th grade.
Oh,
between 5 and 10.
That's the age where the mind is, just ready, just grab on stuff. Take more, and it's very creative at that point. I think the children, they're amazing. At that age, they just have so much potential, and you got to get into it. Now, again, your background obviously helps, because you understand how the children work and their mind, and you were teaching kids, and you've seen them in different environment and helped them. So this is actually something. Now, this is your first book, I'm assuming.
Yes.
Okay.
So a very exciting process.
It is. I'm sure it's not easy, and and to publish a book, it takes time. You need a lot of stuff. But yeah, the idea behind it is very core and important. I'm assuming there's going to be a series, and I'm being wishful here, because I think that when you do something like this, you can't stop. You're probably going to do a lot more, and obviously it depends on the demand and how it plays. But the idea, if you did one, you want to do a second one. You can't stop. Now, inspiration. Let's talk about that. The book. How can it inspire these children in getting more creative? What's there to actually really guide that inspiration from?
I think moving in different ways. So just getting your body moving is going to get the mind going as well. So if you're continuously doing the same types of movements all the time, changing that up can spark creativity. And there's some life lessons incorporated in there. And like I said, the activities at the end. So just that it invites kids to create their own in general, rather and take that learning outside of just the book. So it's not just, okay, read the story and that's it, but let's be hands-on and apply that with our full body.
No, Sarah. I'm assuming the landmarks you mentioned, traveling around the world with different landmarks. I mean, these are real, areas of the world. So it's also educating them in terms of the travel and destinations and what's out there. So
Yes.
it is literally giving them, they'll grow up knowing what those places are and things. So, but it's more of an artistic way for them to really remember. Because sometimes using different ways from memory, these things will not go away. Because I mean, you can teach people geography and they'll forget about it overnight. But if it's a journey, if it's like a story, and you follow it, those things, they don't go away. They stay in your memory. And I think that is a unique approach about it, because you are teaching them a lot of things. To your point, it's a lifestyle, it's the movement, is to travel and the different parts of the world and so on and so forth. And so these are things that they can easily apply in the future as they grow up, because it's going to be with them for life. I remember all the stories, I think I remember every story that I read, when I was a kid. I mean, to a degree, not all the details, but some of the main ones, they're still here. I mean, it's 50 years later, but it's still in the works, right? But it's important. So now, why is this book important to you?
I think it takes learning and in creating connections with others, with learning, and making it an experience so that you're sharing it with somebody else. So playing into that kinesthetic learner, I know for me, getting hands-on with something really helps it resonate with me. So just opening minds and kind of getting out of the stress in people's heads and kids' heads, and bringing their attention into their body and just finding that calming sensation of matching their movement with their breath.
So you mentioned kinesthetic learning.
Yes.
Or learning. So what is that? I mean, can you explore that more?
Yeah, absolutely. So we talked about the visual learner. The kinesthetic learner is hands-on and using movement and body. So rather than reading how to make bread in a book, getting the ingredients out and getting their hands in it to learn. And really, for me, that is a lot more meaningful. Yes, exactly.
It's hands-on. But that's actually, believe it or not, we don't realize how important that is in our life until you actually graduate from college and stuff, because a lot of stuff you read, you study is theory. You go to the real world, it's not the same typically, right? You got to get into the mix and get, hands dirty, as they say, and get in. And so that concept, it sounds unique when you hear it, but it's really an important concept for life, because if you can be visually I like to see things, and absorb easily from a video or whatever, or an audio, right? But there is nothing that beats when you actually do things. You practice things become easier. Simple. It's, practice makes perfect. That goes across the board. But anything that you do, physically, you're learning faster, and it's going to become better for you, and so on and so forth. So it is a practice that we should all actually have, some sort of tendency to apply in our lives. And especially at that age, if they get to really get involved and do the stuff and feel the stuff, then it's part of their life. It stays with you. There's not going back, in terms of I didn't know how to do it, because you've been doing it.
Yeah.
So it's important. So I love it. I mean, it's you get the visual through the illustration, but you have also the concept of the movement and the application of it in terms of now I do want to get, just for our audiences and even for me, if you can just give us a picture of maybe a little scene in the book or something to show us like how it all interacts? If let's say if I was a kid right now, and I'm the child reading the book, how would I apply that?
So one of the landmarks that they visit is the Colosseum. So the book explains how the Colosseum was used, and invites kids and whoever's reading along with them to embody the lion, a lion that is at the Colosseum, and just finding the strength of, okay, I'm pretending to be a lion. So it's not like be strong, but embody that strength, with your movement. And so you're reenacting a story within the learning.
So I mean, literally, like kind of like in a play, right? I mean, you read the script and you actually act on it. And by the way, kids do that all the time. They read something, and again, talking about comics, Superman came out, every kid is like, putting a cape and like running and doing the movement and like, I'm Superman. And, you get a character and everybody's like trying to mimic that character's movement and do the same. It is amazing, how the mind, and it's vivid. I mean, it's really, it picks those things. And you're right. If you add it's like almost, we know of the concept of 3D now and 4D, like it's got a full experience. Really, that's what this does. It's just in an old format. I mean, you have the visual, you have the artistry there, or the artistic part of it. Then you have the movement part. So when you add those things, you do get actually a 4D, 3D. I mean, that's what you experience in the 3D and 4D type of theater, for example. You are getting the whole, you're feeling it, you're seeing it, and then you get the movement with it. So that's the 4D part. You're just creating a traditional 4D concept before the CGI business in the movie industry, and I adopted, I guess. But that's just, the idea behind, what we're supposed to have. I mean, in a lot of places, you don't get to have a good practice in terms of your education and what you read. You read a story, you imagine it's one thing, but you read a story and act on it is two different things. It's just not the same. You're right. If we do a script, like if we read a book right now, and then there's a script, and then we get to act it, then you, first of all, you memorize that book. It's not going anywhere. I mean, if you ever had a line, like I did theater a long time ago, and I still remember my line. And I remember exactly my role, and it was a small role, but it was just something that you're never going to forget. And that's exactly, and I think when kids do apply these things, they don't go away. It's somewhere in the memory, and they get triggered at a certain time. And sometimes you never know when that's going to affect their real life at a point, when they're grown, because there may be something an experience that will encounter, and then, oh, maybe they'll apply some of the stuff that they've read in that book or any other book for that matter. So,
definitely.
So mindfulness. Let's talk about that.
Yes.
In the context of the book, how is that, important for the children reading the book?
So it's presented on a very base level, but aligning the breath with the movement. So just focusing on, okay, when I am doing this movement, I'm inhaling, and when I'm doing this movement, I exhale. That's taking the mind off of everything else that's going on and putting it into their body. So, which is just going to help ground them and relax their body more. So
you're integrating really the yoga concepts, because mindfulness is part of the yoga world, right? I mean, you have to like really just inhale in, get all that stuff, be mindful of your surroundings, that kind of concept. And you're integrating this. So in the story of the book, as if I was to enact, some of the character in the book, will I be able to actually do that? Is there like an exercise part of this in there?
Yes. So again, it's not a extensive description, but it introduces some of the base concepts and instructs the base movements to get started, and have fun in the meantime.
Well, so what you're doing, I mean, you almost are building yoga into the children's mind as a good way to of practice, you know, or to integrate in their life. Because I think if I read the book and I'm a child, then, you know, maybe a second one, whatever, or similar books, you know, now you're introduced the idea of yoga integration into my lifestyle. I think that's pretty cool, because I mean you're giving them because again, a lot of people make the choice to go to yoga. In your case, same thing, you practice it, but as a child, when they get accustomed to something from that early age, they basically it becomes part of their culture, becomes part of what they do. So you kind of almost introducing next generations to yoga.
Yes.
Is that am I getting that, or I'm just,
yeah,
you know?
absolutely, definitely. At least some of the grounding aspects of it, and just moving around. So some, again, just movement rather than thinking of full on exercise, but getting the, you know, body in motion stays in motion. In the book, Iris doesn't want to go to school that morning. So the mom is using this adventure around the world to kind of help get her out of her thoughts and get her ready for her day.
Wow, amazing. So that's another thing. I mean, that's another angle. It's really, you know, an actual tactical, you know, strategy to get them, you know, to really like where the journey in the day, whatever. So it's kind of like, you know, almost you know, like we use the sleight of hand kind of concept in games and cards. You know, it's like you get the sleight of brain here. Like, you know, you almost get them distracted a little bit and get them prepped, and then this way it's not like, you know, no reaction or like immediate, you know, like no, or I'm not really. You get them really prepped, like excited about doing some stuff. You know, it's pretty interesting. Now, something inspired you for the book specifically, or
Yes.
what is
It was actually about feelings originally. So after my yoga certification, a friend of mine said, you know, you really should bring the yoga aspect in. And it just completely turned in a completely different direction from there. So it still has some of it was feelings and animals originally. So still self-awareness kind of idea, but incorporating that movement in.
Wow. I guess whoever that friend is, they contributed to this. They contributed to this, right? You got to thank them, right? So now you did this. How long ago since the book was published?
About 5 or 6 months ago.
All right, and I'm assuming the book is available on all the book platforms, you know, Amazon, Barnes Nobles, all those, you know, places.
Yes.
Okay, and obviously cannot be audio. This has to be illustrated, so you have to really get the copy and check it out and visualize it and read it. All right, and do you have like a website or something where people can actually go to you, or they just have to go to the Amazon direct?
Yes, on Instagram, you can follow me at Sarah, SARAH, care, CARE _ SWFL.
Thank you. So now I want to go back to one key question, and this is maybe for people who want to do like the work you do. How easy was it for you to actually write a book and get it published? Because I know that's not a simple process. You know, what would you tell people, you know, if they're potentially interested in doing something like that?
I would say it took me over a year. The illustrations, especially, you know, putting those together, but finding someone, you can go on Fiverr. In this case, I was referred to a friend of a friend, but someone that is familiar with the Amazon formatting. That is definitely a challenging part in getting everything to fit inside and the number of pages and that kind of thing. So, you know, even if you have a small idea, just writing that stuff down, maybe you don't put it into action right away, but if you have an idea, putting it on paper and making it a legitimate, get that ball rolling.
Thank you. So now, question for you: how do you feel about the fact that you have a baby. I mean, it's really a baby, your baby, out in the world, in the form of a book, and sharing the values and some of these things that can literally transform and help parents and children, in the long run.
I am loving it. I love the journey of it and the learning through it all. I've got lots of other ideas, and like you said, just continuing to branch out and build on it. So, just those small steps do kind of snowball, even if you don't think they're a very big step. Making even the smallest step a step, it gets the ball going.
Yeah, listen, you passed that. I mean, you started the journey, you delivered, the actual goods, and now it's just the next stage, and that's a beautiful thing. I mean, I admire people. I always say this, and I'd say it again today. People who are authors and writers, they change the world. I mean, literally, they are the ones who actually put in stuff, information and knowledge, so next generations can take it. Doesn't matter what level of book, what kind of book, if it's a book, it's probably the knowledge that, and again, we have a lot of knowledge today because of our ancestors who actually left books. If you don't leave books, I mean, there's, so you guys are doing a terrific job in terms of the work. And so I get a lot of authors and writers, on the shows, and we talk about different topics, but in the heart of it, I believe that their mission, is unique, and they are contributing to a legacy, and that is admirable. It's honorable. I love it. So, I guess the next one will be the next book, and then the next book, and you have a series. Maybe that character now, they're just another journey. I mean, different angle. You never know.
Yes, you never know.
Well, I'm sure something's cooking, so I'm not going to ask, but I'm sure something's there.
Yes, Steve. Hopefully, we'll get to chat again.
Yeah, well, definitely. So, any last we're coming to the hour, and what is a good advice to the children, to the parents, and to our audiences? Just what would you say to people about reading or the importance of reading books specifically?
I think bonding over it. So whether you with older kids talking about what they're reading, or younger kids drawing a picture about the book together, and just making it a family or bonding experience, I think goes a long way. I know growing up, my family and I had a book time where everyone had their books and we talked about what we were reading and all hung out together. So that was a great memory. So just creating those connections through it is important.
Well, what you said is very powerful. You had something as a memory from your childhood where you were actually doing this. And so, see, this is what we discussed about, like when you do something at an early age, it sticks with you. Now, look, you went through education, you went through the fitness world and the yoga world, but yet, that kind of stayed with you. And now you're almost delivering that for other families to have the same. It's that's amazing how things work, and it doesn't fail. I mean, you talk to other people about different things, and this stuff that is from the youth, from those days, it's like it's always with you. It becomes part of you. So
it really does.
So I guess we have to thank your parents as well.
Yes.
and your family for allowing that, your love for books and for reading books and things like that, because maybe that's what triggered this, and again, I'm sure there's a reason behind it and you did it, but you're relating to it. So that means it was important. And I think it is important. So.
Yes. Well, thank you. Do you have any memories as a child where you were talking with different people about what they were doing?
Me personally?
Yeah.
Oh, I mean,
or
a lot of memories.
Entertainment industry that led to that?
Not with entertainment. Like, again, parents, talking to me. I mean, my dad, was always there, and we were talking about different things. And, I live with some of these concepts that, I spend with him. I mean, I had a different childhood. Like I said, I mean, I was a lonely child, so that's a little different. I was in activities, but many things that I've learned since I was a kid, are things that I drive. I mean, for example, I relate all the time. I state this all the time that I've been in martial arts since I was 9 years old. My dad was in martial arts and he introduced me to them. And, that became part of my life. And, I'm 51 and
Cool. And
it's in my
still,
life, so yeah, I mean, those are the things. I mean, like my mom was always there for me, and believe me, she told me how to cook, so I can cook. So stuff like that. It stays with you. Like I tell my kids, I was a kid, I was able to actually make my own meals and things like that, and it was something that I enjoyed. And so there's all kind of stuff. In terms of books, I mean, they loved for me to read books, and I used to get collections of books, and and then we go trade books, and with friends, and you get to these bookstores and you just kind of give old ones and get the new ones, and it was all fun. I mean, so the childhood memories are like amazing, and the good and the bad, by the way. Some of things that could be bad, they stay with you, but luckily I don't have a lot of bad memories from my childhood, life. And but that's really who you are, and I think it changes your life. And now you can certainly shift at any given moment. You're not always conditioned to those things. Yes, they are part of your baggage, and they're with you. But if they're bad, you can get out of them, and if they're good, you hold on to them. That's all. I mean, that's another advice that I always tell people. Just because you have a set of circumstances, that's one thing. We all have our circumstances, but as you grew up, you take the good and you dump the bad. That's it. I mean, you have the ability to do that. We have the ability. But the good memories, they just stick. I mean, like I said, I mean, my dad passed on, but his memories are with me, and the things that we did as a kid, as a kid with him, and the support, he was there, and the parents. It's always that. I mean, again, I didn't have brothers and sisters. I cannot talk to that effect, because I know people who have siblings, they have a different experience. Like my daughter and my kids, they always tell me like, well, Dad, you're not like us. You never had brothers and sisters, so you don't understand how it works. I'm like,
touche.
But it's amazing, like how things, but I mean, we all have something that drove us to where we are today. And it makes who we are as a humans and our contributions to humanity. And I think we all want to do something. Like I like to teach, some stuff that I learned before. And I believe that anything that you learned way back then to this moment is meant to be taught to others. Knowledge is not supposed to be, hidden and kept by yourself. I mean, eventually we're all going to die. And if you don't share that knowledge in a form or another, it's gone, right? It disappears. You are doing it in the form of books. I'm doing it in the form of podcasts. So we have different formats to do it. I mean, actually, you're doing it in the form of podcast too, because you're talking about this stuff now, and people are encouraging people to actually get the access to the book. So this is something that's going to be for life. I mean, this is the internet world now. You plug one of these shows in there, and that's it. They're gone. I mean, they're forever in circulation. Somebody somewhere, in this generation or next one will probably come across something, right? And that's the part of it. We're not just here to take, we're here to give. At least that's my philosophy in life. We're not scavengers. We're not, just taking. We're not Pac-Man, Pac-Woman.
Right.
We're here to actually give and contribute and do good things, and
absolutely.
We take the best. And that's it. Like, again, you had great memories. I got great memories, but some people may say, well, my memories are not that great, and, if that is the case, totally understand. I mean, not everybody has different, the same lifestyle and whatever experiences, but always look for something that was good in your life. There's always something good in our lives, no matter who we are, no matter what we experience. If we look at all the big picture and, maybe it doesn't look good, but what was something good in there? And that's good enough for you to take on. And I think that's a beautiful part. If you actually are able to extract that, that's enough to actually give you fuel to be a better person, change, and help others. And sometimes the stuff we lack when we are kids, is a driver behind us doing more. I mean, many people
absolutely.
don't have stuff given to them, and now they want to give because they were not able to get that, So it could even be, positive no matter how you slice it. It's just how you look at it. And your mind, I mean, I think you also talk about mindset, I think I've read something about in your bio about mindset. Mindset is everything, right? It's how you look at things. You can change the world. You can change your perspective of the world.
Yeah. As one of your biggest struggles, you can help others get through it as well. So,
And by the way, that's a mission on its own, right? There was a satisfaction to helping people.
absolutely.
There's a joy to it. And people that are missing that part, they don't know what they're missing. Try to help someone, and the joy you're going to feel is going to be unique and different, and it's going to change your life. When you, wow, look what I've done. I mean, I really helped someone, and they're better, they're happier. And this doesn't have to be money. It could be helping them with ideas, helping them with support, helping them just being there for them, just listening to them. And that's the thing. Like, helping doesn't mean like, oh, they got to take from me. There are things that are free. Caring is free. I mean, being a nice person doesn't cost anything.
Right.
You don't have to buy it. So many things we can do to change lives and help. Listen, you wrote a book because of you put all the stuff that's in your life in that perspective, right? And now you share that. Now I know this is not going to be the end. I'm pretty sure that if we talk a year from now, you'll be like, I'm doing my second book, maybe 3 books. I know that for a fact because maybe it's a challenge. We'll go back a year and like, what's up? Be like, you got it. Not even, let's say it's not a year, 4 years, 3 years, 5 years, doesn't matter. But I know it's not going to end there. The journey continues because it's like a bug. It's with you. You can't. It's like, I got to do more. I got to do more.
Okay. Yeah.
Ultimately, you want to see results, but many people had a book, had something, and it was not the biggest, sale, or vice versa. It was the greatest sale. That didn't stop them one way or the other. They still do. They do because of what they want. Money is good. That's not that we don't have to discount that. We can't live without it. But most of the people that do things, they don't do them necessarily for the money. They're doing for the mission, for the joy of it, the journey. And the money will come as a bonus, which is a good thing. And then the more money comes, the more you can do. Beautiful. A win-win for all. So I don't know if I answered your question. I mean, that was my
absolutely
for a quick question. So, but yeah, so I got, so we reversed the interview. I like that. That was good. I love the way you did it. He did it as a true teacher. You ask the question, you need the student to answer, right? All right. Well, listen, I mean, Sarah, it's been, pleasure. I had a great time. Again, we already had, our advice to people, and folks, please do check out the book. And if you have kids, definitely get it, and share with the kids. And if you're into the world of yoga and you want to introduce it to your kids, I think that's really no brainer, right? I mean, it's like, hey, this is the best thing I can give to my kids and get them integrated with the idea. So, listen, movement is key, health is key, wellness is key. You are touching all that. So, thank you, Sarah, for what you're doing.
Oh, thank you so much for having me. An opportunity.
It's my pleasure, and I learn stuff, and I get excited about these discussions because and again, when before we start a show, I have a set of things that I want to talk about, but it always goes different ways, which is okay because
Yes.
what, that's how it is. It's supposed, there are different shows out there, and there's different programs, there's different formats, there's some scripted, there's some so linear and rigid, and it's okay. That's a format. I like this. This is like ad hoc. We have a discussion, we have a core topic, but it goes left, it goes right, upside, we'll take it whatever it goes, so we have an hour to have fun and also to help and share and enlighten to our people, that are listening. Maybe we say something that's going to make a difference in their lives. And that's the most important part. To me, that's a life-changing, and that's what motivates me. So,
Yes, I agree.
all right. Well, listen, thank you so much, Sarah, for being with us.
Well, thank you. This was a lot of fun. Thank you so much.
You're welcome. And folks, thank you for being with us, for watching, for listening. And we'll be talking soon. New day, new show, new topic. Hurricane H. We'll talk soon. Bye for now.